games away from the franchise record. What stands out to you in terms of what you appreciate about his approach to the game?
I mean, he's an elite shooter for a reason. You know, his dedication, and discipline to do it every day is outstanding, and that's why he is where he is. You know, he was especially, I don't think that anyone thought when he was in high school or college he'd be the Nets all-time leader in three-pointers. So I think that's just a tribute to how dedicated and how much he's willing to sacrifice to continue to grow as a player and to be in that type of category.
Setting the tone physically is important every game, but how big is it when you're facing an Eric Spoelstra coach team?
For sure. I think they're, very competitive. Their additions have been, I think, well aligned with their physicality and culture. So they're going to pose a great challenge for us tonight. It's really great for our guys to kind of face that type of defense and, the high IQ defense and a team that plays physically. It's a great combination, and we'll definitely test our team.
Kind of following up on that, you've said in the past every game is kind of like a measuring stick game, but when you have a team like Miami who's been together for some time and then adds an all-star point guard in Kyle Lowry, is that more of the case? And then on top of that, just what does Lowry bring that maybe they didn't have last year?
Well, I think he's just a perennial all-star who's extremely competitive, toughness, leadership, makes big plays. I think he makes his teammates better. So he brings a lot to the table, and, it's a great addition for them.
Eric. Thank you, Coach. You used some guys in the last game that you hadn't used a lot, but Bruce Brown is a UM kid. A lot of interest in South Florida about him, and DeAndre Bembry, who came off the bench for you. What did those guys in particular bring to your team and to the lineup the other night?
Yeah, they're similar in many regards. I think they're both very competitive, defensive-minded players. They play with a lot of pace and energy. So I think that they complement each other in that way. Bruce has become a fantastic kind of roller for us. So he adds an element to our game there with his speed in and out of rolls. But just both two guys that take pride in defense, are physical, and play with great energy and pace.
Steve, following up on Grady's question about Harris, obviously he's not shooting as well this year as he traditionally has the past 4 years. Is he having any trouble adjusting to a bunch of new teammates this year? Is there spacing issues or just issues in knowing where to expect people to be?
I think the truth's probably somewhere in the middle, and I think you also got to remember it's just really early. Just a new group finding itself. Maybe he hasn't had 2 or 3 games in a row where he shoots lights out like we're accustomed to, but that's coming. He looks great, and you still feel like it's going in every time he shoots it. So I have tons of confidence in him. I think by the end of the year he'll be in his standard range, and we'll benefit greatly from his shooting and all the other things he brings to the table.
This is twofold with Joe. I mean, obviously he has a certain gravity as a shooter. Our team's defending him a little differently and paying more attention to him now since you don't have Kyrie. And secondly, going back to Bruce and Bembry, obviously that's a personnel thing. Those are good defenders, but tactically, are there switches that you've made over the first few games just in terms of how you're defending pick and rolls? Are you dropping more? Are there things that you've changed?
No, we've stayed pretty much to what we do. We just want to get more familiar and on the same page with what we've done. It is still early, a new group, and all sorts of different kind of players playing together for the first time. It takes time to make those kind of connections on the floor when things are happening quickly. So lots of work to do. We've seen glimpses of really good defense, and we're just not a team that profiles with a ton of defenders. So I think it's something that we have to be really sharp and really connected with how we play defensively. And so we've seen glimpses, but not, long stretches or multiple games in a row where we've defended it very well. So that's coming. That's what we're working at and getting better at, and it'll come in time. So yeah, it's just something that I think forevermore our team has to be extremely diligent with our principles and connectivity.
Hey, Steve, it's John Crotty. How you doing, man?
Hey, John.
Just looking at James Harden and prep for the game and where he's off to from a starting perspective. Looks like he's having a tougher time getting to the line than he typically does. Do you feel like he's still, maybe got some lingering issues with the hamstring? Is it a little bit of the point of emphasis with, the new fouls and being able to draw contact and not maybe getting those calls? Where do you see him at in that regard?
I think a little bit of both. I think it's an adjustment to, the officiating is they've drawn a new line. So getting accustomed to that is one part of it. And the other part of it, he's just played such little basketball for the last 6 months that it's inevitable that there's going to be a period of time that he needs to play and adapt and kind of refine his rhythm and groove and all that. So, I think the both are relevant, and, we just need to be patient with him and allow him time to get back to his best.
So I know 4 games is a small sample size, but Kevin has 23 assists so far. Do you think he's looking at himself as having to be a playmaker because you don't have Kyrie in the lineup?
Yeah, I think a combination of just, Kyrie, James still trying to find himself. I think Kevin's taken more of a leadership role with the ball in his hands, trying to facilitate. He's capable at that for sure. And he's found a nice balance between still leading us and scoring and also facilitating, looking for his teammates. For such a gifted, historic scorer, he really is an unselfish player. And so I think inside, in his mind, in his heart, he'd be quite happy to pass the ball all night if it was successful. I think he shoots more when, I think he feels he needs it. So, he is an unselfish player inside, but when you're given those gifts, you got to shoot the ball and you got to score the ball. But he's found a nice balance between the two.
Kind of following up on that question, I had asked Kevin about, just how fast he's been able to make decisions after catching the ball. And he said that's still something that he's trying to learn and get better at in terms of deciding what situations require him to move fast and what situations require him to take his time and read the floor. I mean, you were obviously a player for a long time. How long did it take you to kind of get comfortable in either going fast or going slow and reading the floor?
Yeah, I think it's a process for all players, especially when you come into the NBA. It's a different pace and different rules, different style, different opposition. So there is some time. Kevin's, I think at this stage of his career, it's more about just the layers to his game. What situations does he learn to attack differently than others and try to add a layer to his game? And so, for example, I think he's really added that quick rip to his game, where he just makes a quick move without any, chance for the defense to set. That's devastating when you have the skill set that he has. So that's one thing. But then the passing, playmaking, leaning on that is also, another layer that I think he's kind of, you see him exploring right now.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks, everybody.